Halt. Ready, face.
Alonso fond la patrie, de jeu de gloire t'arriver. Contre nous, la tyrannie, les tendances, say, can you see? By the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed, at the twilight's last gleam, the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched.
Ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the small table and empty chair to my left and to your right at the front of the room, known as the memory table or missing man table. It is a symbol of those lost. We offer thanks for the men and women who have made our country strong.
Clearly, D-Day, the liberation of France, is the most significant collaborative effort of the French and the Americans since Lafayette helped us. We need to remember that, because trust me, the people in Fréjus do not forget it. It now gives me really enormous pleasure to introduce Bernard Marie. The most important thing, Bernard has spent a lifetime honoring the men and women with the D-Day Memorial in Bedford for many years. He's been honored by the French government for his efforts. He is an officer of the French National Order of Merit. Bernard, thank you for being here. Welcome to Fredericksburg. I should say bienvenue à Fredericksburg. Thank you very much.
70 years ago, my mother was trying to find something to give me, something for my 5th birthday. Guess what? I'm born on June 5th. So we were trying, and we were living in Paris until September 1943. And due to the fact that we didn't have any food in Paris, my mother, who was 29 years old, was every Saturday by bicycle going outside of Paris to get some piece of ham, dark bread, going through checkpoint by the German, and that was pretty dangerous. So she decided to go to our house that we own in Normandy for 200 years, who is in Port-en-Bessin. She's thinking, well, we will have more food and it will be safer. Well, we knew how safe it would be 10 months later. But if I'm talking about my mother and not my father, it's because in 1940, I was only 1 year old. My father escaped through Spain to join de Gaulle in London and was one of the first of what we call les Compagnons de la Libération. So I didn't know that I had a father. My mother acted like a widow for 4 years. meaning that she kept this secret and didn't say anything to the family, because as you can imagine, if the German knew that my father was in London, I will certainly not talk to you today, and we will have been a one-way ticket to a concentration camp, and certainly a lot of torture to the adults. So we were in Port-en-Bessin, which is located at exactly 9 miles north of Omaha Beach and 5 miles south of Gold Beach. We were used to, every night, to have a bombardment to Cherbourg. So we had the siren, we go down to the basement, 1 hour later, we came back up. On June 6th at 2 o'clock in the morning, we got the siren, we got to the basement, but instead of 1 hour, we stayed 15 hours. With no light, no food, nothing, and I spent about 12 hours with my grandfather with his 2 hands on my ears. We didn't know what happened. And of course, that was D-Day. We came out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where I got a lot of surprise. As you know, a child has a selected memory. When my mother was walking on the street and see some German soldier, she was going on the other side of the street. I suppose that her secret was so heavy on her that she didn't want to be close to a German soldier. Now, I need to tell you one thing. All the German soldiers were not Nazi. Oh, many German soldiers were like every soldier in the world when I go home. So the officers were lodging generally in the house. We had 2 German officers in our house. They were very nice. They bring me some cakes. They were very good. Thanks God, they left at 2 o'clock in the morning because their car was parked on the back of our house. And if the plane had seen that of the Allied, we certainly will have missed and have our house destroyed. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon on June 6th, they were not shooting so much. My mother got out, and we heard her screaming, but screaming of joy. So we followed, and I saw her, and that's the pictures that I will keep all my life, hugging a soldier. And I couldn't understand because I didn't make the difference between the 2 uniforms. But of course, that was a GI. And there, I got some experience. Number 1, I got a Schwinn gun. I swore. Then after some coaching with the GI, I was pretty good making bubbles and everything like you do with a Schwinn gun. The second thing that I got was a box that somebody gave me 2 weeks ago at my dinner in Roanoke. It's a copy, of course. But I got this box. That's a ration kit in which you have inside a chocolate bar and some other goodies. I have never tasted in my life chocolate. And then I learned my 2 first English words. The first one, well, easy to guess. You have that on your table, Hershey. The second one, freedom. Then all the kids of the village, each time we saw a Jeep, a GMC, we were running after the Jeep on the GMC, screaming, Hershey freedom, Hershey freedom. I have never, ate so much chocolate in my life. Never forget. Never forget these guys or anybody on the World War II. It's difficult for you to understand one thing, I'm sure. If Dday or the landing or the Battle of the Bulge didn't succeed, instead of speaking a bad English, I will speak a very good Russian. I'm so proud to be here. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless America. Here is my friend, my buddy, John Gessler.
Hitler and Tojo and Mussolini thought they could rule the world. But they run against the United States of America. And we showed them that they could not beat us. They could beat the rest of the countries, but they couldn't beat the United States. And I'm proud to be a paratrooper of the 509 Parachute Battalion, the most decorated battalion in the United States Army. 770 men in my outfit that we stopped the SS troops in Paris when they thought that they could take over the rest of the world. We came out of that slaughter, you call it, with about 130 men out of 770. My outfit was completely destroyed. The outfit that I represent was the United States Paratroopers of the 509, and I'm proud as hell to be a part of it. Out of that group, it's only 4 men now that is still alive of the group that we fought in Germany, in France, because they thought they could beat with the worst of the world.
Our next guest, also a veteran, Ben Jason, sitting here. Ben turned 18 in 1943 and joined the Navy.
I want to thank all our military and their families for their service, sacrifices, and dedication. We owe them a deep sense of gratitude. On June 8, 1944, we made a trip with navigation equipment to Utah Beach. On June 11th, we towed pontoon sections to Omaha Beach, and we made it safely. A good distance behind us, also towing pontoons, etc., were the USS Partridge, ATO 138, a British and Dutch type. Neither one of them made it. The Partridge lost 37 men. 60 were rescued. I don't know if say on the other 2 tugs. They all 3 were sunk by torpedoes from German U-boats. At the time, we were informed that an American and Dutch tug were sunk. But we never did find out what all that did happen. There were thousands of ships involved, and hundreds were destroyed. I found this out at the 70th anniversary ceremonies, when I sat down beside a retired Navy lieutenant commander who was on the Partridge and survived being blown into the water, suffering a broken leg and injuring his back. It took me 70 years to get back there and find out what happened on June 11th, 1944. It was just amazing that I sat down beside Lieutenant Commander Michael Rich. There were 200 men on the stand with the presidents. I could have sat down next to any of the other 200 veterans that were there, and I would have never had closure. The real heroes are those that made the supreme sacrifice. Thank you, and God bless you.
We're blessed to have two others of the greatest generation. And I've been blessed, humbled, and privileged to sit between them tonight. Lillian, let me ask you to just stand for a moment. Can you do that? Not to embarrass you, but Lillian's husband, Donald Kendall, entered the Marine Corps at the onset of World War II. Served as a military attaché down in Brazil in Sao Paulo because he spoke fluent Portuguese, but took assignment as a rifle company commander on the sands of Iwo Jima. The other person I'd like to present to you is no stranger to Fredericksburg, Stafford, or even really Northern Virginia, Major Rick Spooner. KFC, Tinian, Saipan, Okinawa, went on to serve in Korea and Vietnam. 4 Purple Hearts during World War II.
But the Fraser's Historical Society in 2001 published a book that captures first-hand accounts not only of soldiers but of citizens, of the civilians who lived in the Fraser's area and lived through the occupation and through the liberation. 2 of our sister city board members, Craig Vasey and Catherine Willis, have translated some excerpts from those interviews, those oral histories of the witnesses. I'm going to ask them to come forward at this point and read their translations of some of those first-hand accounts.
The Germans had built a steel wall the entire length of the coastline, and fishing there was forbidden, but the area along the entire route between the road and the sea was barricaded and mined.
Many trees had been cut down to improve defensive visibility. Curfew was at 9 p.m. There were German patrols with police dogs. Occasionally, the patrols were accompanied by French police. We had few autos. We got from place to place by bicycle or on foot.
Although we didn't starve, our food supplies were fairly thin and irregular. When the Americans came, they brought us potatoes, sausages, and corned beef. We erected a long table under an outside shed roof, fixed a huge meal, and the Americans and Fraser's folks had one glorious dinner.
On the 15th of August, we left our apartment in Fréjus and went to nearby Valescure to stay with friends who sheltered us. Germans had evacuated from the area's lovely villas, where they had been living for several years. Some they had turned into armed fortifications. The next day, I went to one of these villas and found several bottles of schnapps. Just afterward, the Americans arrived and I gave them all the bottles. They soon drank every drop and then had a very restful sleep.
And now for the perspective of a French officer. I'm going to introduce you to Colonel Éric Monod. Colonel Monod joined the French Air Force 30 years ago. He still lists as his trade air defense fighter pilot, but he is currently the NATO Supreme Allied Commander Representative to the Pentagon. Colonel Monod.
140,000 Allied soldiers landed in Europe in 1944. I wasn't born. My father was barely 10 years old. But I know what we owe your country. We know the sacrifice that has been made by the United States of America. I know you send your children in harm's way to defend freedom. As General Dwight Eisenhower once said, the history of free men is never written by chance, but by choice. And I know, we know, in France, that the choice these brave men made on the shores of Normandy and in southern France was not the easiest one. On top of the heroes present in this room tonight, and those that were already mentioned, we know about Wilson Colwell, who joined the paratroopers when he was 15 after he lied about his age because he wanted to answer the call of duty. He was told he couldn't pilot a plane without a high school degree, so he decided to jump out of a plane instead. And he did it on D-Day with the 101st Airborne when he was just 16 years old. We know about Bill Bruce Overstreet Jr., an American fighter pilot with the 357th Fighter Group, who flew a P-51 Mustang and turned in a kill while flying under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, was chasing a German Messerschmitt 109. Overstreet was awarded hundreds of medals for his service with the 357th Squadron of the US Army Air Forces, including the French Foreign Legion of Honor. We know about Audie Murphy, who was 19 years old when he received the Medal of Honor because he single-handedly held off an entire company of Germans for an hour at the Colmar Pocket in France in January 1945. Murphy earned and received every single decoration for valor that the United States has to offer, plus 5 decorations presented to him by France and Belgium. He is America's most decorated World War II combat soldier. Tragically, he died in an airplane accident in 1971. I wish I could list here all the brave and courageous men and women who put themselves in the line of fire and fought for freedom, and ultimately liberated Europe. France has not forgotten the sacrifice of your loved ones and of the tens of thousands who perished. On behalf of the French people, let me say thank you. America, we will never forget.
Thank you, Colonel Monod. Thank you. In a minute, I'm going to introduce you to Pete Jordan, who's with the Eisenhower Memorial Commission. But really, as part of his introduction, I'm going to read to you a letter that we got just yesterday. Dear friends, my friend Mr. Pete Jordan brought your most meaningful event to my attention. I wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate the Fredericksburg Sister Cities Association on this most worthwhile initiative, our youth. They are at a fundamental time in the formation of their perspective on the world. The face-to-face experience is the universal teacher in understanding and creating harmony with each other. My grandfather, Dday Eisenhower, founded the Sister City organization as part of the People-to-People program in 1956. He was passionate in his faith in the capability of everyday people. I am very encouraged to learn about your youth program, enabling the youth to decide for themselves how they feel about the world rather than through media blogs and Facebook. They will be changed forever. Again, congratulations on your long-standing Sister City relationship and dedication to making the world a better place. Most sincerely, Mary Jean Eisenhower, Chairman Emeritus, People to People International. Pete Jordan was our speaker on the June 4th event at the Freelance Star and delivered a phenomenally interesting talk there. He's joined tonight by Albert Kramer and Josh Porman. He is going to speak to us. Pete is a retired Air Force colonel. He's the senior advisor for international affairs to the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial Commission, and he's going to speak to us on Ike's decision.
D-Day at the beaches of Normandy is, for all of us, I think, an iconic watershed in the history of the Western world. And it's been studied from almost every perspective or viewpoint that I can personally imagine. The literature is just enormous. It's been argued, I think, rightly, that the decision that was facing the Supreme Allied Commander Dwight Eisenhower was probably the most complex challenge of any military commander in history. And so you can look at this decision-making in so many different ways. Was the invasion necessary? Where do we invade? What weather conditions do we need? What manner of logistics planning would be necessary? How can we keep the invasion a secret? How can we manage this vast cooperative undertaking with multinational forces, numerous different kinds of forces, differing command structures? So there's just so many ways we can look at this. I personally find much more interesting an attempt to transcend these sort of technical or strategic or tactical issues. And I believe that the thrust of what Eisenhower had to do was so personally burdensome that I find it the most interesting, and this is where he truly showed his mettle. He took all those problems on, but it pained him so greatly to know that so many of these young men that he commanded would make the ultimate sacrifice. And of course, he created the Sister Cities program, Sister Cities International, and dedicated to the special friendship and cultural exchange at the grassroots level that he thought was so very, very important. So as his granddaughter Mary noted, I think he would be incredibly pleased to see how the embodiment of some of his ideas and thinking has taken root right here in Fredericksburg and with our counterpart, Frejus.
The Voices of the Pops are the choral component of the Rappahannock Pops Orchestra. They fully number nearly 100 singers. Our friend and board member and their leader, director Mandy Carr, has brought a smaller ensemble tonight. I think she's going to start with the Armed Forces Salute. We'd like for everyone, retired and active duty military, when you hear your service, we'd like for you to stand or raise your hand to be recognized.
Over hill, we have lit the rusty trail, as those caissons are rolling.
thank you all for being here tonight. I can't possibly thank all the people who have made this possible enough. I certainly can't begin to thank the veterans who have allowed me to live in peace and freedom. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to leave you with one final thought. Bernard mentioned a little while ago that our two countries have been married for 238 years. He admitted we needed some counseling. But I don't know how many of you realize that if you read the current French Constitution, the Constitution of the Fifth Republic, adopted in 1958, 14 years after Dday, Title I of that Constitution, enacted today, Title I quotes as the principle of the government directly from Abraham Lincoln, that the government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. That, my friends, is what we honor and what we celebrate tonight, and that is why we should all join in singing God Bless America.